Hey, Rox, how do you hear me?
Lima Charlie, homie.
Got you loud and clear as well. Southern, what about you? How do you hear me?
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, how are you?
All right. Hey, I'm going to hit you up on Florida politics because don't you guys have an election coming up?
Tomorrow.
How's it looking?
From everything I've seen, it's going to be Byron Donald. Me too.
Oh, you know what? I don't have a question yet or a quote. Rox, can you handle one? I can handle. Which one do you want?
Neither. I'll think of a question.
All right. You'll think of a question. Go ahead and type it in when you get a chance. And I'll find a quote. Let's see. Anyway. So what did you guys do this weekend, Southern?
Family Saturday, nothing yesterday.
You know,
I didn't hung around the house.
I didn't do anything Saturday, and or actually, is that true? No, I took my I went to so my men's group that I'm in at Elevate Life Church, they meet Saturday morning at 7. And then I had to drop my car off for service. And I'm very annoyed at my Toyota service because I took it in for the 185,000 mile check. You know, it's got like 184,500 miles on it. And then I look up today at the service sticker and it says next service due in 1,000 miles. And I'm pretty sure they use synthetic oil, which should be 5,000 miles. So that means that the maintenance light is going to be coming on in 1,000 miles. And I have no patience for that. I mean, they're making me hit a button like every time I start the car to get rid of that maintenance warning. I mean, that's almost like being in Auschwitz. I'm kidding. All right. So Southern, you did that, did all of nothing. Sunday was a day dedicated to having to switch software in my secondary job. So it was learning that software and then pretty much doing nothing. It was everything I thought it could be, which is a quote from Office Space. What about you, Rox? What did you do this weekend?
My answer is pretty much the same as it was last year. Sorry, okay. I don't have weekends anymore, but I did the dishes. That's a win for me.
All right.
Oh, and some meal prep. That's also a win for me.
You know, I actually meant to do that, but then sorry, Rox, I just saw your question.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what was the question again, Rox? I apologize.
All right, so my question is, what is the oddest smell that you actually enjoy?
All right, that's a little early for now. I meant, what question did you ask reference that? I'm not going to answer that. That's the question of the day yet. I got to have some time to think about it.
Wait, then what's your question?
Well, no, you just, I asked you a question about like what you did this weekend, and then I thought you had a question in there for me, and I was going to answer you.
Oh, no. I just said I did some meal prep, and you said you meant to do that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Don't we always?
Well, I bought an andouille sausage, and I've been hankering for some jambalaya, so thought I would have some of that. Now, that being said, you got to be in New Orleans to get good jambalaya, and jambalaya is a Friday meal. It's not like yes, they serve it every day because New Orleans is a tourist area, but real jambalaya you're only supposed to get on Friday. And on Monday is red beans and rice day. So I do miss that aspect of being stationed down in New Orleans because I'm telling you, the food in that city is just absolutely incredible. What about you, Dr. A? What'd you do Go ahead.
If you live in Louisiana, jambalaya, gumbo, and all of the specialties are every day. I'm sorry that you were on a strict schedule and you're stationed there, but you can have any of it always, and it's delicious all around.
No, I know you can, but
North Louisiana actually has some crazy, like, super secret recipes up there too. Like, it's kind of crazy, but all over in deep South too. But yeah, I miss my food. I love going home and getting it.
Nope, I'm definitely a fan of New Orleans food. And again, I was told that, that's traditional red beans and rice is served on Mondays, and I'm not from Louisiana. I'm not from, I would say I'm not from a corrupt state, but the rant will make a lie of that. That's for sure. Everyone laughs about, New Orleans and Louisiana being corrupt. And, I can't see how you could say that a state is corrupt when, they're paying, I think it was $64,000 to be the parish snowplow checker in parishes that didn't have snowplows. I mean, what's corrupt about that? I mean, Rox, explain that to me.
So there's a thing called Louisiana law that operates on a little bit of a French rule. There's an entire separate course in the legal system dedicated toward it.
Napoleonic Code.
And Candrabahoa Parish is one of the most corrupt. You look at them sideways, get on a judge's bad side, and they do some other weird things. It's almost like how D.C. has a little bit of different type of laws that not everybody has to follow. It's kind of weird when you start looking into it. You're like, oh crap! So every time I go back home, like, don't speed in that parish. And parishes are like counties. Trust me, I moved there when I was 10, and I was like, what the hell is a parish? So they don't have counties; they have parishes. It's similar to the same thing, but it's legally called that. Is what you got to call it. All kinds of other weird stuff too.
No,
it's fun.
You're absolutely right.
Makes up for it. Food and crawfish. Love it.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I was never a huge fan of crawfish. It never appealed to me. So I would, when we'd have the big squadron.
Not Cajun.
When we had the squadron crawfish boils, I would eat the corn and the potatoes. Now, I do like corn and potatoes when they're spicy, put in, what is that, Zatarain's crawfish boil? So yeah, I'm down with that plan. All right, Dr. A, we've talked enough Louisiana for you, and I know you're probably just shaking your head at Rox and I's relative love of bad, fattening New Orleans food. But go ahead and.
No, I love beignets.
Okay.
One of the best places to ever get good beignets. I had a great weekend, but thank you for asking.
All right, well that's good. What made it a great weekend?
I literally said, screw it all. It's hot. I'm going to the beach. And on Saturday, I drove an hour one direction to just walk for 4 miles on the beach with my dog, have amazingly good food, buy some great, very, very fresh fish, and came home and made an amazing dinner. And then the next day, I got to drive an hour and 15 minutes a different direction and go to a different beach with cliffs and lots of hiking, had a great picnic lunch with my son, got some great hug time with him, and did a whole lot of walking with his dog. It was great.
Awesome. That sounds like a very good time. My dog is waiting for the temperatures to go below the corona of the sun level. That way we can actually go to the dog park again. I mean, it is so hot out there. It's just unreal. Take him for walks, and sometimes he'll veer off the sidewalk just to be in the grass, which he can walk in the grass all he wants. I'm trying to go at reasonable times so his little paws don't actually, melt off. That being said, I haven't bought him dog Crocs, and yes, I saw some last year. I refuse. I mean, wouldn't that strip the dog of all of his dignity? Not that a dog really has any, but
yes. Yes, it would.
I think so too.
It is a great time watching them try to walk in them, though.
No, I
hilarious.
I don't doubt
Get
that.
Your camera out, go be a YouTube star, because that shit's hilarious.
Yeah, I don't think he would. I actually think he would chew it to pieces in like a millisecond. He is a very, very chewy lab. And that being said, he's been relatively good lately in terms of actual thievery. He still can't resist the occasional potholder off the kitchen counter, but you can't help that, I guess, if you're a dog. So I did want to mention one thing, and it's kind of a funny story to me. So we would have these things called red beans. So when a pilot showed up, it was a takeoff of something they do in Korea. We would actually go down to the French Quarter and get him absolutely blasted. So we would have what is called an air tasking order, which is how you get your missions in wartime, but to send us to various bars throughout the evening. Now, we were smart, and we would hire a New Orleans police officer that was off duty to follow us around to make sure we didn't get in any trouble or cause any trouble. And so we did that. Well, at the end of the night, one night, the sun is coming up, and we're having coffee and beignets down on the water. What is the name of that place? It's very famous. I can't think of it right now. Anyway, coffee and beignets right on the Mississippi River, and we see this guy come walking towards us. And sure enough, he gets closer, and we notice that he's shirtless.
Cafe Du Monde?
I am Cafe Du Monde. You're right. So I noticed that the guy's shirtless, and then I noticed that he's got on black leather pants, and then I noticed that he's got a collar on and a leash, and he's being led on a leash. And he walks by, in the back of the what I thought were pants were actually chaps, which did not have a back end covering, shall we say. So I just looked at my buddy and said, 4 a.m. is a little early for assless chaps for me. So anyway, that was the start of the day. But anyway, that's Cafe Du Monde for you. That's New Orleans. I do recommend that if you go to the Quarter, you go down Royale. There are a ton of beautiful shops and paintings and things to see on Royale. Bourbon is to be avoided by me at all costs, except for Squadron Red Beans. All right, on that note, we are a few minutes from getting started. The rules are quite simple. Don't talk over anyone. Don't cuss if you can help it, or you'll be buzzed. And if you go too long, we'll ding you. Rox, we'll tell everyone to share the space, and then Rox, you've got the question of the day. So after you do that, go ahead and lead in with a question.
All right, guys. Sorry, I was posting your live link up in the nest. So again, if there's ever any trouble, we have the live link there. We even have the Facebook and Rumble. I posted all the links down there in the purple pill. We are about 2 minutes off from starting, so if you don't mind, please share it out, repost it, quote post it, get all your peoples in here. If you want to come up, interact with the host in the audience, and Larry, remember it is a live show, so just raise your hand if you have anything to add to the topic. We are restricted to an hour, so don't go too long if you can help it, please. But we love the interaction, especially if you want to ask anything of me, Larry, Southern, or Dr. A. We all have our little specialties. We got 2 military members, a lawyer, and a doctor on the panel. I also have the plan that I'm going to be posting in the nest, but we are
that
about
sounds
to go
like the
live.
start of a joke.
It does, actually. We're going to have to come up with one.
But yeah, get everybody in here, and we're about to start, and hopefully my question of the day makes everybody laugh.
Go ahead, Rox.
Okay, yeah, I forgot. Okay, question is, what is the oddest smell that you actually enjoy?
All right, I'll go first. One of the things that I have in my backyard is a fire pit, basically, in a circle, and I can turn the gas on, and then, of course, I have to ignite it. I actually kind of like whatever the artificial smell is that they put in the gas that you can smell. I mean, not that I would sit there and sniff it for any, amount of time, but I don't dislike that particular smell. All right, your turn, Rox. You asked the question.
That's like my number 2 answer, which since a kid, my favorite smell has been once you strike a match, that smell, whatever that smell is.
Yep.
And yeah, I don't know if that led me to EOD, and then gasoline's my number 2. Again, I'm not an arsenic. I guess my last profile picture on my old account did have fire in the background. I do love bonfires and burning things, but that's only because I can't blow stuff up anymore, so I got to take my creative outlet somewhere else. And yeah, those are my favorite smells.
All right, so if there's a rash of arson in Northwest Florida, we know where to come. All right.
It was not me. Don't put that on me. We have fires all over all the time. I did not do it.
All right, Southern, what about you?
Mine's going to be bleach. I love the smell of a clean house and clean laundry.
You can't go wrong there, because bleach means that my bathtub is clean that I shower in. So yeah, I'm right there with you on that one. What about you, Dr. A?
You all are freaks.
Why I hope it made you laugh.
I have always had such a keen sense of smell. I smell the most minute of things, but I'm sitting here racking my brain going, but which of them are weird and which of them do I actually like? And I can't identify that anything that I like to smell is actually weird. I mean, I love the smell of the air before rain, but who doesn't? I love the smell of the salty air at the beach, but who doesn't? Guys, you're weird. I don't know.
All right, that's fine. Another one, Rox, that got me thinking when you started mentioning work was when you're taxiing out, you're slightly offset behind the other A10, but, it will pull in front of you sometimes when it's, going into the arming area. And so the smell of the JP5 coming out of the exhaust, you just get used to it. And again, this is something that is a smell that probably everyone would like. All right, the gun gas, all right, is Hercolite. And that's from the A10 gun. And it actually comes into the cockpit. So there are those of us that would drop our masks, and then after we had strafed, you pull off and you go, Because it's just such a good smell, that Herculite. Anyway, and you've just...
black powder.
Oh, yeah. It's so
fun.
good. All right, everybody. We are, I believe, a minute past time. This is The Reckoning, 17 August 2026. Show number 339, and 1 hour of unfiltered political truth starts now. Now, last Thursday, I attended a town hall for our new congressional representative, Pat Fallon. Pat Fallon inherited the city of Frisco when the state of Texas switched the congressional maps. Now, as usual, Pat played politician and he recognized donors with congressional awards, and he did the usual political games such as taking credit for securing the border when I don't think Congress has really done much on that. Now, Pat is very good at this. As a matter of fact, when I entered politics, I was so impressed with the speech that he gave at the Lincoln-Reagan dinner and his general overall actions and just watching him that I now rate all political speech with a 1 to 10 Fallon rating. And I've been doing this for months now. Now, his speech last Thursday was average. I give him 4 Fallons at best. But there was one part of it that has stuck with me for a few days, and it's still not sitting right. The town hall I attended happened to be in the Frisco City Hall Municipal Building. And behind the podium where the congressman was speaking were the seats of our city council and mayor. Now, Congressman Fallon stated that when he was a city councilman, he knew where a Costco was going to be located 2 years before it was built, but he didn't take advantage of it, invest in the real estate surrounding it like other people did. And then he pointed over his shoulder like this at the spot where Mayor Jeff Cheney used to sit. Now, Mayor Cheney amassed a fortune in real estate. Some of that, I am certain, was luck and planning because, the northern part of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex is growing like a weed. All right. But many believe, as do I, that he used his knowledge of city plans in public office for private personal gain. So I've got a U.S. congressman with knowledge that a mayor is doing this and nobody gets law enforcement involved. And that fact is completely unacceptable to me. What chance do any of us little people have of actually changing things? I find this so disturbing because it's widespread. Everyone knows it's going on in every city and nothing's done about it. We all just accept it. Between this revelation and the vacuous promises being broken by every politician in the Republican Party, I'm struggling to maintain my optimism. So I'm not going to be optimistic today. We do not hold our own representatives accountable enough. I've stopped watching congressional sound bites on social media by men like Josh Hawley or Jim Jordan. What's the point? All they are is talk. There's never any action. Oh, wait, they do take action. They collect more revenue every April 15th than they ever have before, and they find ways to spend all of it at ever-increasing rates. And not content to do just that, they borrow and spend our children and grandchildren's future to the point where we are $40 trillion in debt. Right now, I have the inescapable feeling that all we are doing when we vote is to move deck chairs around on the Titanic. Normally at this point, I say just tighten up your chin strap, buckle up your pants, and get back in the game. But right now, I'm asking what the point of the game is, because no matter what we do, no matter how many touchdowns we score, we lose. Cowardice is so prevalent in our society that a local veterans group, the Frisco Lakes Veterans, canceled my speech because they don't do politics. Everything in life is politics. Tax policy affects everyone. Border policy affects everyone. National defense policy affects everyone. Everything as an adult is politics. Yet almost everyone is afraid. And to be honest, why shouldn't they be? J6 proved they can imprison you if they don't like you. Our government no longer listens to the people. They only care about the money that they collect from donors that will buy them re-election. That's why they do things like push gambling, which we know leads to the sexual prostitution of children. That's why they allow H-1B visas for jobs that Americans can do. That's why donations from Muslim businessmen motivate them to suicidally approve mosques. They don't care about solving our problems. They care about campaign funds and their next election, and that's it. There is not a single politician in Texas or America today that is willing to stand up and say that Islam is the problem. Not Sharia law, Islam. There is not a single politician that is willing to stand up and say the government must be cut and taxes reduced, and then will actually follow through with it. They'll all say it, nobody will do it. Not one. There is not a single district attorney or attorney general that is willing to bring Anthony Fauci to justice, a man that murdered more people than Adolf Hitler. We no longer have a government of the people. The question I have for you is, what are we going to do about it? All right, let's talk about segment one. Let's talk about a war that we didn't want, that everybody on this show, all of the co-hosts said was not going to be good for us, and that is the war with Iran. So the first thing we're going to talk about is economic strangulation. Now, have you guys been to the pump lately? I think we're closing in again at like $3.85 here in Texas for normal unleaded. What are you at in California, Dr. A?
Well, I only go to Costco, and it was $5.09 the last I checked.
Wow. What about you, Rux, and Southern? I'm assuming you guys are the same.
$3.40.
Okay, how is it that
Mine
you have
was
cheaper gases than I do?
$3.65.
All right, so $3.65. So again, I may have just hit a day where there was bad news. But Brent crude ended last week at $88.50 a barrel, as traders awaited details of what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's planned escalation campaign is in the economic war against Iran. Apparently, Washington has decided it cannot bomb its way out of this one. We'll talk about that in the next topic. Now, Bessent said Friday that Washington would announce unprecedented economic isolation measures next week, warning that the coming pressure campaign would be like anything seen in the economic isolation on a country. I'm pretty sure that the Roman surrounding Carthage probably was a little bit harsher, just guessing. So I can think of a lot of historical examples where countries were economically boycotted. Now, for clarity on his upcoming isolation operation, Derek Holt, the head of capital markets economics at Scotiabank in Toronto, provided clients with a guesstimate of what he thought would happen. The first thing he said was that the new sanctions would economically isolate Iran by targeting China and India. China is the main buyer of Iranian oil and is involved in undermining U.S. sanctions everywhere. The U.S. sanctions some individual Chinese entities the U.S. sanctions that were announced against Chinese teapot refineries could be extended by sanctioning all Chinese banks, this time including larger institutions, and blocking their access to U.S. and global financial systems. That would push the Chinese further away from the SWIFT system, which if you've ever lived overseas and needed to move money, you use the SWIFT system, and block access to correspondent and other forms of banking. It could block access to US dollar funding markets. This would very likely enrage China and risk multiple forms of retaliation and escalation, such as the devaluation of the petrodollar. Now, broaden the scope of sanctions on Iran. This would extend the scope to any global group, company, or entity involved in buying, financing, insuring, or shipping Iranian oil, which means the global banks, currency exchanges, commodity traders, shipping companies, etc. Actions under this category would aim to entirely thwart the sale of oil from Iran to China in yuan and its conversion into dollars and other currencies via exchange houses in Iran. We will also need to target other Middle Eastern nations facilitating this trade by blocking their access to dollar funding. Looking right at you, Dubai. All right. And this is going to create, if you will, a ripple inside the global economy, which, you drop a stone in the middle of the pond, what's it going to look like when it gets to the end? Now, Dubai likes to fancy itself a financial center, so this could also destroy their ambitions of that. They're also talking about targeting Iranian crypto assets. Don't know how much of an impact that would have. The Treasury announced last month that targeted individuals and entities under a specific Iranian person's name would occur. The U.S. could broaden this action to include freezing access to all Iranian global holdings of crypto, gold, real estate, foreign accounts, etc. How are we going to tell them to freeze an account in another sovereign nation? Anyway, there will probably be other creative options in terms of both scale and scope. The broad point is to escalate the economic and financial blockade of the Iranian economy and financial system by enveloping all parts of the global economy. Now, I am confused by something. I thought we had a naval blockade already. So if we're blockading everything coming out of Iran, how is any oil actually getting through? Now, is this going to work? I'm not sure. Iran has already been sanctioned for so long, they know economic suffering. It's used to being a pariah state, and it has developed mechanisms to get around it. And to quote, I think it was Garth Brooks, Iran has friends in low places. Okay, Iran has its own means of escalating against us, which will be through what are Muslims really good at? The one thing they excel at, terrorism. Now, the article I was reading used a phrase that I want to talk about for a second. They said that Iran will unleash unspeakable terror. Unspeakable terror. Now, that is what war should be, and it isn't for our enemies. We have been so surgical that the cost in blood is no longer a deterrent. We talked last week about the fact that you need 20% of the armed forces of a country at a minimum to get that country to capitulate. The only nation that has withstood that 20%, modern nation, I didn't go back into antiquity, is the Soviet Union. And they withstood losses, I think, in either the high 20s or high 30% and stayed in the fight. Now, the consequences to the global and the global economy and financial system could entirely thwart the chances of our own success. I'm sure they know the risks, but Treasury would sharply amplify tensions with China and India, and they could cripple individual banks while not ruling out increased systemic risk within the broader financial system. Now, so when I hear things like that, the historian in me thinks back to, why did Japan attack the United States? We cut off their oil. We cut off all their oil to the war machine. So if we cut off China's oil, the history does repeat itself. It really does. All right, so cutting off access to dollar funding markets could short-term destabilize major players in the financial system, but it could also cause them to seek alternatives. And when the petrodollar falls, inflation will be so rampant, it will kill over 1 million Americans who will not be able to afford food. So this should not be treated lightly. Now, context here. China gets more than 90% of its oil, gets 90% of Iran's oil exports, meaning it is the most likely target that Basent is going to secondarily hit when it imposes these sanctions on Tehran. Removing discounted Iranian crude from the global market, what's that going to do to global supply? It's going to tighten up supplies, which is going to elevate the Brent and West Texas index prices higher, which means for what? You and I higher prices. So let's look at the scorecard. An unpopular war, higher gas prices, an enemy that doesn't fear us, and is now putting bounties on our soldiers, which we'll talk about in a second. All right. And now a potential drift that will destabilize the dollar and enrage our only near-peer competitor. This is a slow movement into world war, and it's accelerating with all of these things on the plate. The country will vote and almost will certainly deliver the House to the communist, socialist, and the servants of evil in November. Does this government represent the people anymore? Okay, again, let's get back to the founders. This is why war must be declared by the Congress, not the president. All right? Buy food, buy water, buy bullets, and buckle up. It's going to get bad. Get to know your neighbors, as you may need Minutemen committees when the FBI comes with the local sheriffs and start coming to get you. The other thing you must do is you must vote out any sheriff that won't defend your rights, like Denton County's Sheriff Tracy Murphy. Now, I brought a likeness in here today of Sheriff Murphy. All right. This is a sheriff that works to keep the establishment in power. This is a sheriff that states publicly, I don't need to look at evidence. I've already made up my mind. This is a sheriff that allowed the FBI to make a political prisoner out of Stuart Rhodes, and he has to be removed. He is a bad apple in a barrel full of good ones. We have great sheriffs in Wise County to the west. We have a great sheriff in Collin County's Jim Skinner to the east. Unfortunately, I live in the bad apple. With a bad apple. Now, Sheriff Skinner is the sheriff that deftly handled the Carmelo Anthony rioters. So I want to ask Sheriff Murphy right here a couple of questions. All right. So Sheriff Murphy, will you protect your citizens' rights? Murphy. Sheriff Murphy, will you stop the Fourth Amendment violations via flock cameras? Murphy. Will you tell the Democratic FBI no when they come to get patriots? Murphy. Now, I assure you folks that Potato Murphy is much more eloquent, articulate, and erudite than Human Murphy, and probably has a higher IQ. I've got a picture of him up in the link, so I invite you to take a look at Potato Murphy and then Sheriff Murphy and see which one you think looks smarter. For me, it's the guy sitting on this table here. All right, Rox, you commented that I am so negative here. All right. Yes, I said in the rant that I was going to be pessimistic. Give me a reason for optimism, young lady.
There's like 300 to 400 advisors way smarter than any of us on the panel advising and strategically out every single thing in this entire operation 24/7. I don't know. I think there's some things that you're a little bit getting wrong here and there because there are briefings of certain things. Like, so the when you look on the news, it shows only five carriers went through, but that's because if you also listen to the other briefings, you'll see they're turning off their transponders at night to be escorted by the Navy, so they're getting a lot more through than you even can see with the trackers online. I think this is the best we can do, and ultimately they can't have nuclear weapons, and I'm sorry, this is the biggest regime of terror the past 50 years. These are the people that create this across the entire world. Something had to be done, and only Trump had the balls to do it. And it is going to be rough, as you see. This is probably why nobody else had the balls to do it, honestly, because we all know how they are. Their indoctrination is to lie to people, period. And to lie to get their way for their ultimate, whatever they think is the right way. But it's just anti-Christian, anti-everything, anti the world. They want to, cover the world with their own people and their own Sharia law. That's all.
No question there. All right, researcher, I'll come to you in just a second. All right, Southern, you are, I trust your honesty. I trust your judgment. Obviously, we talked about a topic that we're not going to cover because you felt it was not worthwhile to do so. So what are your thoughts on all my negativity? Do you have a reason to be positive, or do you think I'm right about this?
Have you met me? I'm not a very positive person, just so you guys understand. Right now, I don't see any way out of anything. We have a House that doesn't do anything. We have a Senate that doesn't do anything. We have a president that tries to do stuff but gets constantly stopped by courts or whoever else has something else against him. Like, I don't see a way out of any of this right now.
Neither do I. I don't think we're going to vote our way out of it. All right, Dr. A, what about you? You ran for Congress.
Hands on hips, swearing. Mama, I'm not swearing at you. I'm swearing at your son. You all need to pull your head out of your, no, I'm kidding. No, I live my life glass half full, not glass half empty, which is why when I hung around with y'all and you get negative, I decided to run for Congress. So I blame you. I don't believe in inaction with, complaining. I am a person who it's like, fine, get it done. Congress is the biggest problem. Trump is having to do what he's doing because Congress has not, does not, will not do their jobs until we remove them or force them. And I mean that in a positive, loving words way, not a physical, I'm not promoting violence. They're not doing their job. They're corrupt. They've gotten lazy and they're looking for the sweet pill. And I'm done with them. I will leave it there. I don't believe we can't fix it. I believe that our Congress is broken and we must fix them. That's what we're responsible for.
Yes, ma'am. I wish that we could vote our way out of it, but you don't even have legitimate elections in your state. You have no hope of a Republican actually winning in California.
Okay, hands on your hips. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Who's turning into Texas of Islam?
No question. You're right. I live in the Caliphate of North Texas, and we'll talk about that, I think, here in just a second. But researcher, you've had your hand up. Go ahead, sir.
Hello. Good morning, Larry. It's a pleasure to be with you all. So real quickly on this topic, and hello to the co-host Southern and Panda, and hello, Dr. Angelo. Colonel, I mean, you describe it as negativity, but I hear frustration. I hear frustration with the system's inaction, right? More needs to be done. Corrective action needs to be taken place. On the subject of Iran, though, right? Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts there. You mentioned Scott Bessent earlier, and I think we should pay attention to whatever announcement he's making this week as it relates to let's call it the economic pressure strategy. I'm not sure what exactly he's going to do, but we have seen some speculations out there so far as it relates to, not just sanctioning the shadow tankers, but, other ways in which he could dismantle the Iranian network, right, supporting the oil export. So could be a multi-layered plan and strategy, but I'm kind of just waiting to see what Scott Bessent says. But I'll leave it there.
Okay, again, so I'm not going to talk about that in just a second. You bring up great points because it is going to roll into the next topic. So Rox, do you have the picture up in the pill for kill or capture? I didn't look.
I'll
okay.
put it up there now.
All right. So this is the Iranian chief of staff of their military with his finger in the air with his picture in front of Ayatollah Khomeini. I wish it was like just a quarter of an inch higher. That way it looked like he was picking the Ayatollah's nose. But I want you to take a look at this photo, because one of the most annoying things that the filthy muzz do that I find personally annoying is stick their finger in the air as if they're telling us something important. All right. Islam in a man is a dangerous disease, and some diseases require radiation to cure. The country's military announced Sunday that it was offering a bounty equivalent to $30,000 for killing or capturing U.S. soldiers. What's more, and perhaps even a little bit sicker, they used the word provocative in the article I read, is that the reward will double if the kill or capture of American troops is carried out by a woman. Anyone who kills or captures and hands over an invading American military personnel will receive a reward equivalent to $30,000 or 5 billion tomans from the Islamic Republic of Iran's army, said Army Chief Amir Hatami, who is now a target as well as his family. Now, Hatami described the plan as the result of popular demand, citing a large number of requests to participate. Doubtful. Attacking a U.S. soldier is not real smart. Now, Hatami also said in a bizarre and very dark incentive that whatever weapon the person used to kill an American will be held in a museum for the public to admire. Yet another target. The Iranian army chief also reiterated calls for U.S. forces to finally leave the Middle East altogether. God almighty. All right. It's like the Black Knight from Monty Python. All right. We cut off we destroy their entire Navy. There's a leg gone. We kill their entire Air Force. There's another leg gone. And still the guy's on the ground saying he's going to gnaw us to death. I mean, they are ridiculous. Muslims suck at war, but they're really good at never surrendering. All right. He said that the United States no longer has permission to enter the Persian Gulf. It's not the Persian Gulf. It's the Arabian Gulf, tard. Now, the Gulf of Oman or the Strait of Hormuz, you don't control what we do. Okay, we're the giant. You're the Lilliputian. Probably a bad analogy considering the Lilliputians tied up the giant, but squash them. Now, Iran and its government honestly has been a problem since I became politically conscious. As a matter of fact, the Iranian hostage crisis is what woke me up from childhood to the broader world. I was 12 years old. Should have been happening right about that time anyway. I am exhausted with Iran. There are those among us and our citizens that say that this is Israel's war. I want to ask them, who's the little Satan, according to Iran, and who is the great Satan? Now, Iran has a holy site in Mashhad. It is the Imam Reza Shrine. It is holy in their subsect of their false religion, them being Shia, as opposed to the majority of Muslims who are Sunni. Now, I believe that the Imam Reza Shrine needs to have an unscheduled sunrise, followed by more until we get the unconditional surrender of their government. Iran needs to join Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan on the list of countries that have unconditionally surrendered to the United States. It's the only solution that is viable without a ground invasion, and that is not worth one drop of American blood. Not one. All right. See, researcher, why I wanted to wait? Yes, I don't want a ground invasion. I do want a blockade, and I want to stop this war by just dropping a nuke somewhere. I'm even willing to tell them we're going to nuke this place, so get out. Because they need they need a demonstration, because they still think that they can tie us up and tell us what to do. We haven't killed enough of them. All right. Gen X, you're welcome to grab a mic. Haven't heard from you in a long time. All right, so I'll come to you first, Rox. Mrs. Oh, there's a lot of smart people doing things. Well, it was smart not to get in this war in the first place. Nobody wanted it. So, again, do we want Iran to have a nuke? No, that was the purpose of the bombing raids. That was the purpose of the B-2s. All right, so Israel says they're about to have a nuke. Man, there better have been some damn good credible evidence. And I got to ask, why didn't President Trump come on the air and show us that damn good credible evidence that Iran was close to actually having one? There is no reason to be in this war. Not one, other than stopping them from getting a nuclear weapon. But now that we're in it, how do we get out?
Get him.
Our own agents gave the credible evidence in support of what Israel was saying. Our own agents went there and found that same evidence themselves. It wasn't just on Israel's information. We have people there too on the ground, I promise you.
All right, so Rox, let me ask this question. Is this as reliable intel as we had that there were WMD in Iraq before we invaded in 2003?
I have stated this in multiple different ways. EOD techs like myself get to determine what is classified as a WMD, and if you look it up, it could be anything on a mass destructive cell of chemical, biological, nuclear, explosive, or radiological. So there's your answer.
Okay, so you're saying there was WMD in Iraq.
I'm saying what you think is a WMD can be classified as other things where you can do so in Congress. Certain congressmen took it as that and ran with it, yes.
Got it. Okay, so they took things that are not really WMD and classified them as WMD, probably under political pressure, so that we could say that there was WMD and we could go to war without a declaration of war from the United States Congress. Do you see how all of these things could have been avoided if we'd followed the Constitution?
By the definition, a certain amount of explosives can be even classified as that. That's what I'm saying. The definition itself is where...
Well, it's a dumb definition.
Problem.
Yeah, you're right.
Well,
no,
it's my definition. It's what my fucking MO.
No, it's okay. It's not your definition that's dumb. A certain amount of explosive. Look, WMD in the modern person's thought is biological, chemical, or nuclear weapons. I mean, even chemical weapons are a local nuisance. I mean, chemical weapons used on a battlefield are designed as a funneling feature. That's it. I know all this, but most people don't. They think of chemical weapons as a big, scary thought. Biological weapons are certainly a very scary thought. Again, I refer you to the book, The Demon in the Freezer, if you want to spend many sleepless nights. All right.
Or hold fast until my update in a few minutes. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right, moving forward with the timeline. Let's talk again about hostis publicus. And for those of you that don't remember, all right, hostis publicus is what a Roman citizen could be declared. All right, meaning he is a public enemy to the state of Rome, and citizens were authorized to do him harm. Anthony Fauci is a hostis publicus. Now, in a recent development, Anthony Fauci refused a private transcribed interview with Senator Ron Johnson's subcommittee, the same week that a former ABC News correspondent revealed that the network had torpedoed a 2021 Wuhan lab leak investigation after the script was sent to Fauci for review. To give you an idea of how corrupt our press is, they sent a story to Fauci for review when the story was showing that Fauci was lying. Okay, we have an unbreakable pattern with Fauci. Stonewall, censor, invoke privilege, repeat. On Friday, Fauci's attorney notified Senator Ron Johnson that the former director would not appear for a closed-door transcribed interview. There ought to be nothing closed-door with this clown, as part of the ongoing investigation into the failed COVID response. Oh, it wasn't failed. It was a genocidal response on our own people. So it was highly successful.
It was a planned response, Larry.
Absolutely. Plandemic to get a stolen election, a plandemic to murder Americans. Yeah, Bill Gates was like, yes, this is my dream come true. Now, Dr. Fauci has just refused to show up for another interview. All right. He needs to be subpoenaed and found under contempt already. Yes, I know. It's been forwarded to the Department of Justice, where Democrat Todd Blanche, the new Attorney General, will, I'm sure, act with all speed on it, just like Pam Blondie did. All right, so this was more lawlessness. All right, again, this is ABC News. We are talking about the fifth column for the communists. All right, Terry Moran, a well-known leftist, said that he had a piece examining the evidence that the Wuhan Institute of Virology had received Chinese military funding. So Anthony Fauci was helping the Chinese military research how to make a virus kill more people. And the bat lady, Xi Jinping or whatever, who's the Chinese version of Mingala in this story, denied it. He laid out his arguments. Okay, and the day that it was supposed to air, it got reviewed by guess who? Publicus hostis, Anthony Fauci. And Anthony Fauci torpedoed it. He was reportedly livid, cursing in the booth as the final product arrived, which was incomprehensible, loaded with caveats, and legalized language that stripped the original work of meaning. We all know lawyers can take things that are straightforward and plain and turn them into weasel speak. We hear it all the time from politicians, and we hate it. Now, this is just the latest, all right, from him refusing congressional investigation. But secret texts last week after the show was done, recovered from Fauci's government iPhone, showed him privately warning in January that the second COVID vaccine dose theoretically could be associated with miscarriage in the first trimester because of what are called cytokine storms and fever. Publicly, and he and other officials pushed the shots for pregnant women with no such caveats. So what's going to happen? Nothing. Our government will do nothing to a doctor worse than Joseph Mengele, a genocidal maniac who, as I stated in the rant, killed more humans than Adolf Hitler. He was funded by our government. He was protected by our government. He is still being paid by our government, and the government aided him in his crimes. So I have to ask, What would citizen vigilante do? Let me quote him. I do this until you learn to do it for yourself. Fauci knew he was causing miscarriages and still pushed for vaccinations. Now, like many couples, all right, before my first child was actually born, my wife miscarried right at the end of the first and prior to the second month. You know, I still think about that child. Okay, the second wife, and yes, I am a two-time loser at the divorce industrial complex game, aborted 2 children without telling me, which caused the divorce. I think about those children all the time as well. How can any human want to harm children in the womb or hurt a woman that is carrying a child? This is what the monster Fauci did. And he now walks free when I spent 2 years in prison for protesting a stolen election. There is no justice in this country. The government is unresponsive to the people. When any form of government becomes destructive of those ends, it is what? It is their right to alter or abolish it and institute a new government, which will protect our liberties. Sorry, I don't have the exact quote memorized. This is ridiculous that Fauci is still walking free. And not only that, why hasn't some Russian or Chinese or some other government come in and swooped him up and taken care of business, since the American government won't do it? I'm at a loss. I just don't have any good news today. This is like, I feel like, what's the character on Sesame Street that's always really down? No, I'm sorry. That's Eeyore. All right.
Eeyore.
My bad. All right. So, Fauci. All right. Was there anything, Dr. A, in the revelations about, that were a surprise to you? Or, I know you've been sounding the alarm klaxon for a decade. I mean, anything surprise you on any of this?
32 years, sir.
32 years you've been saying that nobody's been listening to you. There is an excellent book that is actually...
I wouldn't say nobody, but a very small crowd, yes. Mm-hmm.
So I think what I'm going to do is, because I don't have time to actually read the book, I'm going to get the audio book, but I do recommend, I think it's called Turtles All the Way Down, that talks about the vaccine industrial complex. Do you realize we are literally the people in the Matrix right now, okay? We have our food people that get us sick so that our pharma people can give us drugs. I mean, that's all we are, is a cash cow to them. We are a human battery driving this economy forward. It is ridiculous. All right, so again, Southern, is there anything that I missed there?
I don't believe so.
All right. Again, Rox, the voice of optimism on the show, which is, if you really know Roxy, I find it quite humorous that she's the voice of optimism today.
She's the only one that wants to stand up to you, sir.
Yeah, I'm probably the only one that will, because, Yodi techs are trained not to be scared of fighter pilots and or officers. You just make me laugh, even though you're like, I don't know, power over me.
I don't have any power over you right now. We're both civilians.
No,
she said tower.
Well, yes, I do, but
taller than me, and I think it's funny, but whatever. I'm used to literally going at it with men 10 times worse than you, or just alpha male.
Oh, you should have ran into me when I was in my fighter pilot days. The great Santini had nothing on me.
Yeah, but we have to be trained to stand up to little hotheads or reservist officers who are on a volunteer deployment who's never deployed in their life, being like, "This is my scene," and we're like, "No, sir. Technically, by law, it is not, and I'm in charge, and I get to say what to do for safety, not you." On a response. But anyway, what do you want me to be the voice of reason for with the Fauci stuff? I hate him.
No, do you think he's? I agree. I mean, he wounded you personally. He took your career away from you. I mean, so do you think we're ever going to see justice with this clown?
I don't know. I hope so. I do know that there are 3 states that are looking to indict him right now. They have issued their investigative subpoenas and state-level inquiries because he's been federally pardoned. Unfortunately, Autopen and our demented past president, where he wasn't really a president, he was walking I don't know, the little suit bags I'm starting to think might be real, that they animate them sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Autopen gave him a pardon literally on the last day of office. that was not even he wasn't running it. He wasn't doing anything. So whoever was gave him that pardon. So federally, our hands are tied. So that's why we needed him to lie on the stand, and he didn't. But that's also why he did the whole pleading the fifth 110 times, because now the states can go after him. But if he would have lied or did something on the stand to incriminate himself, they got him. But right now, I do know Florida for sure. West Virginia, Louisiana, I think too, are trying to indict him, and they have launched investigative subpoenas on him. So I hope the states, and I hope all 50 states, I hope the world, like you said, does something about it. Because why can't he be held worldwide responsible for it when he hurt the world, not just the states? I mean, not just the U.S., the whole world.
Absolutely agree. I mean, if you take the high estimate, he killed 35 million people with COVID. The low estimate is at 15 million people. All right, go ahead, Southern.
Allegedly, Florida received the text messages last week.
Okay.
Oh yes, they do have it. There's 38,000 text messages that they're sifting through. They've already found plenty of them, like more with the pregnancy stuff, like confirming it and all kinds of stuff. But they're still going through them. They're releasing them as quick as they can. There's 2 congressmen that are on top of that. So there's 38,000 because they got his iPhone. By the way, if you do anything on a government laptop, iPhone issued or any kind of phone issued, they have a way to get it. And I hope you know that electronic stuff lasts forever, especially on government systems. Literally, they keep little pockets that they can get into. It does take some time, and they hunted it down. But now they have 38,000 text messages from your lying ass. So
awesome. All right, researcher, go ahead, sir.
All right, just real quick on the topic of Dr. Fauci. It looks like there is going to be some more legal action, in my opinion. There is law group sent out a notice to all 50 state attorney generals. And as you guys said, some states have already taken action. Last week, I heard the number was about 4. More recently, I heard it has grown to about 17 states. I'm not sure. I have to look into that update, but this is promising. So even though Fauci may have this quote unquote federal auto pen pardon that may shield him a little bit, if the states are going to go after him, it could open up other avenues for accountability. So I'll leave it there.
Yes, sir. I'm right there with you. And just so you know, I did contact somebody in the Texas Attorney General's office that is a close personal friend and ask what can Texas do. So we'll see if anything comes out of that. So, again, it's not like I'm sitting on my hands even when I'm saying that nothing's, I feel like a man in a molasses bubble moving my arms and my legs frantically, and nothing moves on the surface of the bubble. All right, over the weekend, I rewatched a show that I actually enjoy. Now, again, for those of you that have listened to the show, I'm a geek. I love sci-fi, and I watched the Star Wars series Andor. All right, now, this is a really good series. For those of you that haven't watched it, if you remember, in my opinion, the second best Star Wars movie, all right, and of course, I'm drawing a blank on it now. It's the one, Rogue One. All right, the second best Star Wars movie. Cassian Andor is a rebel spy that helped Jen Erso's daughter get the plans to the Death Star and get them out to the rebellion. All right, so that was going through my mind as I was creating this topic, which led to the picture, which is sand people are a problem in every single galaxy. So, according to open sources, all right, thousands of illegal aliens, illegal Muslim invaders, are massing near Spain's Ceuta border again, raising the prospect that this is a coordinated attempt to breach the enclave for a second time. Now, if verified, this invasion attempt comes just weeks after the first round, when more than 60,000 military-aged men attempted to breach the border. This only suggests that migrant flows are being deliberately weaponized to pressure the socialist government in Madrid, potentially marking a second phase of sustained border destabilization. Morocco has deployed heavy security around the border city of Frydek after false social media rumors claimed the border to Spain's Ceuta enclave would open. Hundreds of migrants, mostly from sub-Saharan Africa, which I find interesting because I thought that most people from sub-Saharan Africa were not Muslims. And yet I'm told most of these are. Now, I realize there is a northern crescent, if you will, along the southern border of the Sahara that is heavily Muslim. And honestly, that's where Boko Haram is. That's where a whole bunch of Muslim terrorist groups that we have a defined interest in killing are. All right, so those are the people that are coming into Spain. So a doctor in Quetta told the media, I don't know what diseases I'm bringing home. I can't even take my dog for a walk. Every day we receive reports of girls who have been raped. Now, why have these women been raped? Because Spanish men are cowards. Because Muslim men are free to rape Christian women according to their religion. Okay, I'm being honest. I have extreme fatigue with politicians right now that all talk and do nothing. The few good ones are pushed to the side. The bad ones only grow in power. 13 men and women of 2 city councils, Frisco and McKinney, voted for mosques in my city and the city right next to it, despite massive opposition from the people in the city. Why? Money. Governor Abbott did nothing to stop the invasion during the Biden border crisis, and he'll do nothing in the next Democratic administration either. Okay, Republicans in Texas right now, and you have to understand how crazy this is, are running for office saying that they're going to fix everything. Well, guess who's held power for 30 years? All right, I go back to a story. We deployed to Afghanistan in 2002, and we are busting our tails. I'm talking 14, 16-hour days, all right, even though you're only supposed to work 12 as a pilot. That way you've got your crew rest, all right? We're busting our tails. We are literally slaloming, meaning taking off the right side of the runway, moving to the left before we go into the big giant hole, and then moving back to the right before we go into the big giant hole on the left side of the runway so that we can fly at night. I mean, I'm telling you, we are doing everything we can to provide cover for the men on the ground. And so this general comes in and says, I'm going to clean up this cowboy operation. Well, about a week later, he leaves, having changed nothing, but said, I've cleaned up this cowboy operation. So I asked a wise old colonel, why would you do something like that? And it's, well, if you say everything's broken, then you can, but it's not. You can honestly claim that it's fixed when you did nothing to fix it. That's what the Republican leadership is doing right now. Okay, I just don't see what the point of this is anymore. I mean, we literally have an SREC member, State Republican Executive Committee member, that wanted a 4-year-old boy to spank him, and we can't get him removed. Okay, he betrays the grassroots and supports the largest rhino in the Texas House consistently, and we can't get him out. Our female SREC representative for my district doesn't even live in the district, which, by the way, is a requirement. Everybody knew it, but she was still elected anyway. The rules only apply to us little people. Elected officials, you may not know this, in some areas, they can opt out of flock tracking. There are safe lists that you can be put on where flock won't track you. How about that? You like that? Rules for thee, but not for me. We have congressional insider trading to the point where there are apps that move your money with our congressman. Nancy Pelosi's cumulative returns are in the range of roughly 768 to 965% for her portfolio versus the 266 to 313% increase if you just followed the index S&P 500. You don't achieve those levels of return without grift and corruption. We are nothing but tax cattle to elected officials, and it disgusts me how quickly they turn. I watched a man who I personally worked for. I poll greeted for him. I literally took off my shirt and gave it to a voter that was wearing a political shirt, which you can't wear when you go in to vote in Texas. Took off my shirt and gave it to him so that he could vote for the guy that I wanted in. All right, that same man who happens to be Jewish voted for the mosque. That same man just last week stood beside the new Democratic mayor and is voting to raise taxes on residents. That's not grassroots. That's not conservative, because he's in now. They don't care. Senate seats are apparently hereditary. Look at Graham, whatever her last name is, out in South Carolina. Hopefully South Carolinians will reject that. California and other blue states continue to have mass election fraud, and despite promises it would be fixed by the federal government, nothing's done about it. I really don't think I've been this demotivated about the U.S. government ever. And I'm just started applying for my retirement paperwork, which, that ought to be interesting being a J6er. I wonder how many additional hoops I get to jump through. All right. That's enough of all that. Let's get to actually what I hope is good news. I don't know if it is or not, but hopefully it's good news. So Dr. A, can you tell us what is going on in the MAHA movement? Is there any good news? Are we actually delivering on campaign promises there?
You're killing me, Larry. I can take bad news and even make it sound good, so I'll work on it. So I prepared something, I'll call it the MAHA moment, that I'd like to bring each Monday with some updates from U.S. Health News, peer-reviewed research, research developments, etc. So this morning I'm going to focus on 3 that happened this past week. A new federal proposal is potentially going to tighten oversight of food additives. So those of you who know that RFK Jr. is committed to cleaning up our food supply, this is a big one. It's one of the biggest policy developments this week. It's an FDA proposal to eliminate the long-standing practice that allowed manufacturers to introduce some food ingredients without notifying the agency under the generally regarded as safe framework. It's called the GROSS framework. It's been BS from the beginning. They get all kinds of stuff in there and say, but it's safe. So if adopted, companies would be required to notify the FDA before marketing new food additives. Manufacturers would need to provide scientific evidence supporting safety. And the FDA is also developing the first federal definition of ultra-processed foods, which could influence future nutrition policy and food labeling. Why it matters? For those interested in preventative medicine and nutrition, this represents one of the largest proposed changes in U.S. food ingredient oversight in decades. I'll tell you, at least 40 years. So the next one is childhood vaccine policy changes via executive order. On August 10th, President Trump signed Executive Order 14420, delivering gold standard childhood vaccine recommendations for Americans. It's the most recent in a series of actions aimed at aligning U.S. childhood vaccine recommendations more closely with those of certain peer-developed countries and emphasizing parental choice. Universal or recommended vaccines for all children will continue to include measles, mumps, rubella, diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, polio, Hib, pneumococcal, HPV, and varicella. So they've moved it down to 11 diseases from the previous 17 or 18. And when commercially available, it's recommended that the MMR is broken up into 3 separate doses so that they're not receiving measles, mumps, and rubella at the same time. Vaccines that are moved out of the universal recommended for all category and will only be recommended for those at high risk, or also there will be a shared clinical decision-making discussion between parent and clinician, include COVID-19, influenza, rotavirus, hepatitis A, hepatitis B, meningococcal disease, and RSV. And the even bigger part on exemptions, specifically Section 4, directs the Attorney General to, quote, further meritorious legal actions, close quote, challenging state laws that conflict with constitutional and federal statutory obligations related to parental authority, religious freedom, disability accommodations, and equal protection, including where applicable under federal law, states' obligations to provide religious and medical exemptions from childhood adolescent immunization requirements. The Departments of Justice, Department of Education, and Health and Human Services are told to ensure their contractors and grantees, which includes the states themselves, comply with those obligations. Why it matters? This is a major federal policy development. The order is a significant policy signal and litigation directive consistent with the administration's stated priorities on parental authority and religious liberty. It does not automatically change medical practice overnight. You're still going to have to push a pediatrician or leave them and go get a real doctor. I'm sorry. Implementation depends on follow-up actions by federal agencies and advisory bodies, and its practical and lasting impact on state exemption rules will depend heavily on courts and rely on whether Congress eventually acts. It will go to the Supreme Court, I can tell you that. Growing attention, but see, again, guys, that's why Trump is doing a lot of things that he is doing through executive action, because he knows it's going to get to the courts and the Supreme Court so that it can be codified, because Congress isn't doing their job. Do you see what he's doing? He knows Congress won't do it, so he's pushing it in a way that'll go through the Supreme Court. So lastly, I want to talk about growing attention to Lyme disease, and something was just released even this morning by RFK Jr. on this. So Lyme disease was first clinically recognized and described in the mid-1970s. There was a cluster of children and adults in and around Lyme, Connecticut, that presented with arthritis-like symptoms. Local residents alerted health officials, and Yale researchers investigated. By 1977, they linked the illness to tick bites and described it as Lyme arthritis, later Lyme disease. Reported cases and the disease's geographic range have increased substantially since then. Note, Plum Island, near Long Island, New York, across the water from Connecticut shore, functions as a high-security research facility. Only authorized personnel, staff, contractors, and approved visitors with specific clearance are allowed. The Plum Island Animal Disease Center opened in 1954 under the U.S. Department of Agriculture, later involving Homeland Security. Its primary mission has been research on foreign animal diseases that threaten livestock, especially foot and mouth disease. Conspiracy theorists have held that Lyme reached the mainland when a deer was able to swim across during specific tide conditions. It was said to be one of the first releases of bioweapons on large populations. I can confirm that clinical testing has been poor and non-specific for Lyme. It has not been easy to diagnose, even with those tests that are available, and most mainstream medical doctors won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. It was for these very reasons that I began to put weight in the conspiracies. A medical news review in Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA, summarized promising develops in improved Lyme diagnostics. Woohoo, that'll be beautiful. Vaccine development, of course they are, and newer treatment approaches. Researchers note that meaningful challenges still remain despite encouraging progress. But there you go, Larry, one of the first known bioweapons, accidents on the U.S. population. Mm-hmm.
When we play God, we're going to lose. All right, I see Southern, you've had your hand up. Go ahead, ma'am. Doctor, go ahead, Southern.
Dr. A, by breaking up these vaccines, are they actually going to take out the things that us parents don't want in the vaccines before we start giving them to them again?
Really?
Or you don't know?
Great question, Southern. Part of the executive order also stated that better research needs to be conducted around vaccines, including their excipients and finding something safer to be used. So the honest answer to your question is, I don't know, we'll see. The intent is there. But as I've said in this room and many other places for the last, over a year, almost 2 years now, is RFK Jr. has a mountain to climb of, federally, what do you want to call them? Severely embedded individuals who wish to not see him carry through with everything he's doing. Pharma shills throughout all the agencies. You saw what they did to his ACIP committee that's supposed to approve vaccines. He ends up having to disband the entire committee. They'll have their first meeting again in October, and one of the first things they have to review is the new mRNA flu vaccine. So, yeah, there's that. They're going to try. They're going to try. And in the meantime, you have the right to tell them, go pound sand.
All right. So
I just want to counter real quick. I have every faith in RFK. I have zero faith that this is going to happen because of the new CDC director. She's 100% pro-vaccine. She was 100% against that autism is caused by vaccines. And she said all these vaccines are perfectly safe, whether you're not. So I love what he's trying to do, but I believe like nothing's really going to change because of her.
Right there with you. And I mean, let's not bury the lead here, Dr. A. You just told us that Lyme disease is a bioweapon unleashed by the U.S. government, just like COVID-19. All right, go ahead, Panda.
I only wanted to add on to this real quickly, if you guys don't mind. One of the emails that was released, by the way, along with these text messages, is between Colin Francis and Janet Woodcock. And I'm only bringing this up because it's specifically how I went down with all this stuff. Basically, to Colin Francis, who was, I believe, the director of the NIH at the time, from Janet Woodcock, who was the director or the acting commissioner of the FDA. Clearly, during mass vaccination, you will get a lot of psychological reactions, and it is hard to sort these things out. But the people's main complaint is that no one takes them seriously. No one knows how to treat them, and there is no effort to study this. And this is May 27, 2021, literally weeks after I went down and several other military members. And this is the problem I had. These people knew this. They knew this and still pushed it because we were the first group where it was mandated by freaking Biden and the auto pen and all the people who pushed this. After Fauci had his own, what was it? The blood clot in his lung. I mean, yes. Come on. That's what it was. It's ridiculous. And like, we were a science experiment. I did get to go to the VA recently, down in Pensacola. Even met some veterans who were like saying the same thing, and older, younger, all kinds of people. And it's insane to me. We were a giant science experiment. And the Lyme disease thing I have looked into a little bit, Dr. A, and that's fascinating and disappointing. And there's this thing up in the northeast, I believe, where they're having surges of these ticks, like they're being released on farmlands and stuff like that. Have you heard about that?
Yes, they're dropping boxes of ticks in areas. What's going on?
Well, I mean, the U.S. government has a long history of this. I mean, look at the Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis in black men. It's just, at this point, I think Fauci has so damaged the entire medical industry that I would not trust a single vaccination, not one. And mRNA flu vaccine, yeah. I used to get the flu shot because in the military they made us do it. But now you won't catch me injecting anything. I don't trust any medication. All right, researcher, and then we'll come to you, Joe, and then we're going to wrap. So, guys, keep it fairly brief, 30 seconds each, please.
All right, real quick. So Fauci is definitely in a lot of problems. People have lost trust based on what's happening right now. I think this is going to change the landscape. As it relates to the CDC director issue, watch her closely. Definitely, I think there are some huge concerns there with what we've seen with her in the past. But just a reminder, the last CDC director was fired because she tried to go around RFK Jr. So we'll see how it plays out. So I'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Larry.
Yes, sir. All right, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I was going to chime in on that shared parenting decision. So as a parent, I tell the pediatrician they're fired now. It's not shared anymore. And I fully recognize how many chronic health issues are going to go away with that vaccines and the toxins that are injected in the body. And no matter where they land, that's going to be your new illness. And when you clear them out, everything goes backwards, including aging. Dropping the mic.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Thanks for coming up. I don't think you're wrong. I mean, literally, I avoid everything I can from a medical standpoint. I looked at, I had a family thing happen this week where I'm wondering if medication made one of my family members kind of lose their mind for a little bit. And, that's a concern now that my entire family is sharing. And again, these medications, like I said, they kill us with bad food. They kill us with bad pills. They experiment on us in any form of government. Go ahead, Dr. A.
Sir, I just wanted to say to anyone in the room who is a parent or a grandparent, you heard what I said, that I believe that Trump did this now with 2 years remaining in his term to give people the opportunity to file suit against their states. So it may mean, going up against a school district, filing your religious exemption, having them refuse it, plan to homeschool in the meantime, while you contact the Harmeet Dillon, the Assistant Attorney General under civic rights. She will be working to sue states, and you may be in a Supreme Court hearing. We need people who are willing to sue in order to get this to the Supreme Court soon, so that it can be ruled on and all families can benefit. We need families willing to stand up.
No doubt. Dr. A, thank you for that update. And thank you for, again, confirming my suspicions with the medical industry. So I thought I'd, normally we wrap up with some good optimistic quotes, but this hasn't been an optimistic show, so I don't see any need to change that. So let's go ahead and give
Bite your tongue.
some good quotes. First of all, it's by that, bard that has accurately predicted, a lot of things in America, to include the Trump presidency, and that's from Homer Simpson. Trying is the first step towards failure. All right, the second one is one that we actually had up in our squadron at the 75th Fighter Squadron at Pope Air Force Base, North Carolina, and that was the tallest blade of grass is the first to be cut. And that's from an unknown source. He was probably cut. Third one I'll leave you with is this: positivity. If something doesn't break you today, don't worry. It will try again tomorrow. All right, on all that negativity.
He's not positive.
All right, let's wrap up with a dad joke because it's the only safe joke to tell these days. You can't tell any jokes that might impact any ethnic group anymore. So where do pirates get their hooks? The answer is obvious: from secondhand stores. You guys have a great week. I hope you guys are not as pessimistic as me. I'll try and be more optimistic next week, but don't count on it. All right. God bless each and every one of you. Move